Hi, I'm Rob Webb, founder of Nonprofit Campaigns, and welcome everybody to our free live webinar on nonprofit fundraising for beginners. And with me today and on my left is Linda Lysakowski, ACFRE. Say hi, Linda.
Hi.
Our live participants are joining us, and if you are coming in, it says we had 64 people registered, and I know there was a lot of people on LinkedIn that hadn't registered for the thing but said they wanted to attend, so hopefully we'll have more joining us. As people are coming in, welcome to our free live webinar. Please go into the chat and introduce yourselves. Tell us about your awesome selves. Tell us about your awesome nonprofit. And while I tell you about how awesome Linda is in Nonprofit Campaigns, yes, Linda is our new partner here in Nonprofit Campaigns. She has, look at this. I got a slide that was going to tell people all about you, Linda.
Oh gosh, you didn't tell me this.
Oh yes, I've got all kinds.
You're not gonna know all about me, are they?
I stayed up late last night putting slides together. And so let's see, I'm going to start this right here, and you can see, there we are. So those are little two chat heads at the bottom. This is our event today. It's the free live webinar on nonprofit fundraising for beginners. And we're going to be here together for 90 minutes. We've got a lot of great, exciting stuff to talk to you about and with you about. And we have an exciting offer for you that we're going to present later on. That is that we're pretty excited. It's been a while since I've been in Webinar Jam. I'm going to learn this up. So what's our next slide here? Hit next, and it's supposed to go, right? Oh, let's go down here and hit next. Try that. Oh, there you go. This is welcome to the Fundraising University at Nonprofit Campaigns. This is kind of a brand new program that we launched recently, right, Linda?
Yep.
If you go to our website, it actually says FUNC, F-U-N-C, which stands for Fundraising University at Nonprofit Campaigns. And this is going to be some live interactive stuff that we haven't done yet. We're very excited to put this together. There is the slide I was looking for Linda Lysakowski, ACFRE. And for those of you guys that are joining into the room right now, let's see, there's about 18, 19, 20 of you at a 65 signing up. So you're coming in. ACFRE means Advanced Certified Fundraising Executive. Linda has 11 online training courses available now on our website. And so when you go to nonprofitcampaigns.com, you will see it'll say online training. You hover your little mouse on the online training, and there's a page there that says courses by Linda Lysakowski, ACFRE. These 11 training courses that we have, total 59 CFRE continuing education hours. All of our courses qualify for CFRE, continuing education credit. Her courses start at only $99. And we have a special offer for you later, so don't go away. So you can get the special offer on all of Linda's courses. Linda is also available for consulting services on a limited basis, and has offered to come in and help us out with this, with today's webinar and our upcoming masterclass that we're going to be talking about a little later on. I'm going to go into the attendees. Oh, no, the chat. That's where I'm going to go. I want to go into the chat feature. It says, don't be shy, start chatting. And I haven't seen anybody introduce themselves yet. So if you are in the room now, go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from. Tell us about your nonprofit organization. I'm going to start out. Welcome. And let's see if it works here. Bam, I sent it. Yep, it says welcome from me, so I know it's working. So when you guys are in here, go ahead and tell us all about yourselves. We want to hear about your nonprofit. We want you to ask questions during this 90-minute webinar. We're going to be here till 4:30 in the afternoon. Up here they come. Stephanie Cervantes, founder and director of the Encouragement Project in North Atlanta. Welcome, Stephanie. And who's next? Veronica Tashakor. And it says, Veronica from Food Finders in Los Alamitos. Hey, I know Food Finders. I'm a Long Beach guy. I know you Food Finder folk. Arlene Mercer, as I recall, was her name when I helped out and did some consulting for Food Finders way in the past. I'm going to see. We got Drew Alborg in the room, and education he's got his ED thing from Denver, Colorado, Bullying Recovery Resource Center. That's an important one. We have Pat. We have a CFRE in the room here. That is Pat Vallejo from, she's a fundraising consultant from Windsor, Ontario. And she's
a fan of Linda. Hi, Pat.
I'm glad you've got your fan club in the room there, Linda. And yes, she is our founder. Arlene Mercer, I must have been that I was talking about, is our founder of Food Finders. And so, yeah, I got to, I used to do auctioneering for them and donated stuff. I used to donate Food Finders. We would take them out of my sailboat for a day and they would do it at their live auction. So anyhow, Pat says, hi, Linda. Tristan Calhoun's in the room. Hi, all. My name is Tristan with 100 Doors Community Foundation Incorporated, serving emancipated foster youth, continuing their education with housing, just getting the business off the ground. And congratulations, Tristan, for getting that business off the ground. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody here. We had a big slew of people that went through. John Peterson. I think I missed John Peterson. He was the first one. It says, hi, John Peterson, Executive Director with the P3 Theater based out of Long Beach, California. How come I don't know what P3 Theater is? P3. I bet I know what it is. I've been to just about everything there is in Long Beach for when it comes to the arts. Welcome, John Peterson, to the room. We appreciate having you here. I'm going to go back to this slide presentation. I paused it on Linda, and
they're sick of seeing me by now.
Well, you know, Linda, we're going to talk all about you in this training today, and so and Linda is, Linda and I have only been doing this for less than a year together, right? Yeah. Both of us have probably about 40 years of fundraising experience with nonprofits and consulting. But you know, when Linda and I partnered up, we found that she's my fundraising soulmate. And we are able to, oh, look at that. There is Linda with Bishop Desmond Tutu. My son last night didn't know who Bishop Desmond Tutu was, but he knew his name, but he didn't know from the picture. And I think that's a really cool picture there. So we put that in as well. But anyhow, as I was saying, Linda's my simpatico. We, our values align perfectly, both in our philosophy about fundraising and God and everything else. And so why I'm so happy Mark slipped this slide in here for us. This is Mark's joke. The last webinar I did it by myself, and I was trying to read from a teleprompter, and that came up with this little joke from I don't remember what was the name of that movie there with Ron Burgundy, and whatever you put on the teleprompter, he reads. So yes, thank you, Mark, for your humor. All right, this is our team of nonprofit campaigns. And there is Mark, we were just talking about. Mark's the president, and he's in charge of the business operations at nonprofit campaigns. I'm just the director of fun, here to have a good time and teach fundraising. Of course, Linda Lysakowski down there is our ACFRE and contributor and all things fun and exciting here at Nonprofit Campaigns. By the way, if you're not having fun in your fundraiser, you're doing it all wrong. And of course, Danya Webb, our consultant out of Idaho. And Danya has been doing this for a long time. Also, she and I both came out of the YMCA of Greater Long Beach many years ago. She's got her master's degree from Bay Path College in nonprofit fundraising and philanthropy. And the stuff we're about to teach and the stuff we teach in our masterclass, she said there's just nobody doing that in the education system today. And so we're really excited to offer something that nonprofits need. You're not getting this in a lot of places. And so pay attention, understand, stay with us for the 90 minutes. We've got a lot of good stuff for you. All right. Here's the slide about why we created nonprofit campaigns. I've been a one-on-one consultant. I started my career at the Y in 1981, 40 years ago, as an aquatic director. And if anybody here grew up as a child and said, yes, I wanted to be a fundraiser when they grew up, let me know, because I haven't met too many of them. I was an aquatic director. I was told by my boss, Ron Kepler, you have to be part of the fundraising program if you're going to be a successful YMCA director. I'm like, I'm a swim coach. I don't want to be fundraising. And, 20 years later, I had my CFRE and I was a consultant teaching this stuff all over the place. And I'm like, okay, I guess he was right. So anyhow, we founded Nonprofit Campaigns after just last year to offer exceptional online training courses at an affordable cost and connect our nonprofit professionals with a community where you can ask questions, seek support, and of course have fun. That's our Facebook group, right, Linda?
Yes.
Nonprofit Campaigns Community. So if you go to Facebook and hit groups, hit that, you can search. Don't do it now, but after the webinar, I'll have another slide for you to remind you. And of course, we provide expert consulting service to clients. Linda and I, as soon as I get done with this webinar, we've got a proposal to send out to somebody today. What I have found, let's see what the next slide is before. Oh, yes. And here's, of course, one of the courses that we have created and is available on our website. It's our Intro to High Impact Campaigns, a guide to prepare for success. It's a 2-hour video on how to create volunteer-led, staff-managed, high-impact fundraising campaigns that will involve your board of directors, giving them ownership of your fundraising opportunities. How many of you people out there, I'm going to go back to the chat. How many of you people out there does your board of director is just so excited to help and support your fundraising efforts? Go ahead and let me know in the chat. And if Anchorman, thank you, Veronica. That was the name of that movie that I couldn't remember. We have Shannon Ugo here also from is the executive director of New Bethlehem Incorporated. Sounds like a Christian organization. And Drew typed in, not so much. Her board of directors is not all that excited about fundraising. And so many of our clients and our friends, that's kind of where they're at. And it's just not because 3 out of 18, Mary D said. So she has 18 board members, I'm guessing that says. And that is, yeah. So we're going to take that around, turn that around, Mary, and we're going to help you have 18 out of 3. There's always 3, right? And we always have jobs for those 3. But so thank you, guys. Stephanie said, support, yes. Participate, no, in not so much. So we're going to help you out, Stephanie. Mary says yes. So Mary is, yep, she got that 3 out of 18. We're going to turn that around. Lacking meaningful participation from the board of directors, Veronica. Does this sound familiar, by the way, Linda?
Oh, yes. Very much so.
We do have one CFRE in the room. I forgot her name. Do you remember who that was?
Pat.
Who?
Pat.
Pat is the CFRE in there. That's something that all of you guys that are attending today, we've got a journey for you. And if you are an experienced nonprofit professional that has been around the blocks for a while, we hope you encourage you to get your CFRE. But not only that, invite your new staff, your new development staff, and tell them about what the CFRE program is. Tell them about nonprofit campaigns. Have them join our group. Have them get involved in webinars like this. It's up to us experienced folks to let the newbies in this thing know that we care about them and we want them to have a very fulfilling career in nonprofit fundraising. The average length of time for a development director is how, Linda, you recall what that is for a development director?
18 months.
About 18 months. And that's pretty sad, right? 18 months. It takes us 18 months to get our arms around what it is that we're doing and really be off and firing on all 8 cylinders. And assuming we're a V8, for a V12, we want to be on those 12 cylinders. But and the fact that there's a lot of reasons that these folks don't stay on the job. Money might be a reason, but I don't think that's the biggest reason. What do you think some of the bigger reasons are that these people are not staying on the job long, and there's a big need for development directors out there. A lot of people are hiring, and a lot of people are having a hard time retaining them.
I think it's unrealistic expectations set for many development officers, that people hire a development officer, think they're going to just wave the magic wand and money's just going to roll in the door, but we're not going to spend any money on resources to help you. You're coming here with some experience, so we expect you to do it right away. And in some cases, I think it's a lack of advancement opportunities. And in some cases, it's really ethical dilemmas that development professionals are expected to do things that are unethical. And I know many development officers who walked away from a job, including myself.
Me too.
Because of ethical dilemmas. So I think it's a combination of things, but a lot of it is the expectations are just unreal.
I agree with you 100%. So many of these board of directors think, okay, we've hired an executive, we've hired a development director, we can now just sit back and they can do all the work and we don't have to do as much or anything, right? And if you are, I've got news for you. Or if you're a nonprofit founder or a board member here, this is those experienced people. That's the CFRE. They know this. When you hire a development director, when you hire an executive director, the board should be prepared for and expecting to do more work than they did on fundraising than they did before. That is the support that these board members need to give those development staff. I think that's one of the big reasons the nonprofit turnover is so high in our industry. But you talked about one, that ethics, that's an important one. How many people here are members of AFP, the Association of Fundraising Professionals? Linda and I joined when it was NSFRE, the National Society of Fundraising Executives, I believe it was at that time. And I was a member of the Los Angeles chapter and trainer for the Los Angeles chapter of AFP for a long time. Pat, I got a Me Too out of Pat, so she is a member of AFP. If anybody is not a member of AFP, I encourage you to look into chapters in your area. One of the things they have is a code of ethics. I used to have a slide on this. I don't have it in here today. But the AFP code of ethics talks about things that we all need to subscribe to as fundraising professionals. And sometimes we might be working for an organization that wants to go sideways from those ethics, and that's it's happened to me. I've walked away from consulting jobs before. It's happened to Linda, and it's happened to Pat. So let's go to the next slide. I think we beat that one up to death. It's up to us as nonprofit professionals to support those people. It's up to the board members. Diane just chimed in, member of AFP, and recently passed the CFRE.
Yay!
Yay!
Hey, Diane.
I got my CFRE in 2000, and I stupidly let it expire. And so now I got to go back and do it again. I don't know what I was doing at the time. I was making a lot of money and busy and never bothered to go back and do my renewal. All right. So one of the things that I preach, and Linda's heard this from me way too many times, she's probably sick of hearing it, is I believe that almost all nonprofit fundraising tasks are best executed as a campaign with specific goals and measurable results. And so when we founded nonprofit campaigns, the goal was to create what we call high-impact fundraising campaigns. In case you didn't know, there's the definition of high impact, able to affect and influence someone in a powerful way. And of course, as a campaign is an organized course of action to achieve a particular goal. And if you take a look at your efforts that you're doing in fundraising, your direct mail is a campaign. Your email solicitations are a campaign. There are so many things that we can focus and do it as a campaign, and it makes it fun and it makes it manageable. And there you go. So that is our thing. Oh, I mentioned earlier that in a slide that we had that we do online training courses. We talked about Linda's course and our course we have on the website. And we do consulting services. And I think there's a disconnect somewhere in the middle where we're missing people. And this is our goal here at Nonprofit Campaigns. We started this fundraising university to do the disconnect. Starting September 15th, we are going to be offering a 6-week masterclass on annual giving for beginners, how to create a fundraising plan. This is our ability. A lot of people, you guys can't, you're new nonprofits, you can't afford to hire Linda and I for private one-on-one consulting services. I get that. We're not the most expensive, but we're not the cheapest in town. And sometimes those online training courses, they're great, but it's nice to have an interactive learning experience where you can ask questions and be in a classroom like the olden days. And so therefore we've created this 6-week masterclass to teach you everything you need to know about fundraising, but we're afraid to ask. There was a joke there. That was a movie back, a Woody Allen movie, so it's a little different than that. We're going to do this every Wednesday. Starting September 15th, they're going to be 90-minute classes, and we're going to do them in Zoom so you can participate. You can ask questions. And our goal is to teach you all the functions about annual giving, and we're going to add a few things beyond the annual giving, like planned giving, which is so important right now. But the most important thing is when you get in this masterclass, we're going to teach you how to get started on the right foot. Linda, how many times do our clients that we do consulting with, are we correcting bad habits that have been gone on for way too long? You don't need to hire me and Linda to correct bad habits. You can attend the 6-week masterclass. The cost is $249. I've got more bonus things to throw at you later on in this thing. This is an opportunity for you to learn and start off on the right foot, and all of your annual giving endeavors. We're going to talk about what all those are in a few minutes, but all of those should be, we have to have an end game in mind. And Linda and I offer courses about going out and seeking recruiting volunteers and your board members and seeking pledges to support your organization from individuals and businesses. And all of your efforts really need to feed into that. And we're going to talk more about that as we move on. So I'm really excited. Got our 6-week masterclass. We'll talk to you more about that in a minute. Here is our first slide on what it is. If you've been in our group and been around for a minute and hear me and Linda talk, we talk about the culture of philanthropy and how important it is to have a culture of philanthropy versus a culture of charity. Right, Linda?
Absolutely.
And as we move in here is what is the difference between a culture of philanthropy and a culture of charity? I think the biggest one is nonprofits with a culture of charity view donations as a transaction. They passively receive gifts, and that are focused on short-term growth. If you look at that, the activities like direct mail and online giving and social media giving, and so many of these are passive forms of fundraising. But nonprofits with a culture of philanthropy focus more on developing those relationships for the long-term growth of the organization and the long-term societal needs. We have there's a quote down there: "Ask not what your donors can do for you, but what you can do for your donors." And I think that sums it up quite well. Anything you want to add on this slide here, Linda?
No, I just think that it's so important, even in the titles that you have. So for those of you who are just starting out, don't call your fundraiser a fundraiser, because they're more than that. They're building those relationships, which is why we call it development or philanthropy. It's a much bigger scope than those transactional things of just asking for money, writing a letter, holding an event, writing a grant. It's about building relationships with all of your donors, foundations, businesses, and individuals.
You know what? That is so important. There's an organization that I used to work with that now they've done some leadership changes, and they call their development staff the account managers. And account manager, by the way, Kimberly Barker joined us. Good night. Sorry to be late. Kimberly is in Barbados.
Oh,
she's Barbados. It's Irie time. She's running a little late. That's all right. We do that here in Hawaii, where I'm at right now. In any event, what does that say to your donors if the person that's going to develop a relationship and meeting with them is called the account manager? I guess I'm account with these people. I thought I was a donor. I thought,
as a human being.
Yeah, right. I'm just like an account.
As a human being, not a dollar sign.
And so you're right. I love those advancement officer philanthropy. Oh, Red Cross has started doing something now that I do like, and they're regional philanthropy officers, and that sounds pretty cool. Much better than an account manager. Right. We've got another slide here with all my great euphemisms here. Your donors don't serve you. Your organization serves them. They are here to enact change. They can't do it on their own, and it's through your work that they get meaning and satisfaction from making a gift to your organization. And lastly, everyone in your organization, from the guy cleaning up the floors to the CEO, everyone in your organization is responsible for understanding that everybody upholding that culture of philanthropy and being excited about it. And of course, we're going to talk later how we train those board members to get excited about it. All right. Are we having fun yet, folks? Let's go to the next slide. I don't remember what it is. The 80-20 rules of philanthropy. We've got two of them here, so that's why it's rules. And I've been talking a while. Linda, you want to jump in here on these next couple of slides?
Yes. Do I have the ability to advance the slides? Do you know?
No. You have to point to me, unfortunately. I don't know, unless you see next and previous down at the bottom of your screen.
I'm seeing that, but I wasn't sure if it would work. I can try.
I'm just going to kick back and drink my coffee and let you drive.
Okay, let's see if this works. It does work when I click it. Well, the first 80-20 rule that probably many of you are familiar with, and you probably, if you went to college, studied Pareto's law, which said that 80% of the output typically comes from 20% of the input, meaning in any situation that 20% of the people are usually carrying the load. And in fundraising, the first part of the 80-20 rule is that 80% of funds raised will come from 20% of your donors. The other rule of thumb that we're going to be talking about is the source of funding. But I even think this rule recently has changed. When I entered the field, it was the 80-20 rule, but recent history shows us that because it is becoming more of a professionalized profession, and because there's so much emphasis on major gifts, that some people now are saying it's more like the 90-10 rule, and even as high as the 95-5 rule, that 5% of your donors are actually accounting for 95% of your funds, which in one way tells us we need to spend more time with major donors. But on the other hand, it's a little bit scary, because what happens if those 5% of your donors drop off or leave your organization or die or forget to make a gift this year? Then you're really hurting. So I think it's important that we focus a lot of our energy on those major donors, whether they're 5%, 10%, or 20%. But also we need to do something about the 80 to 95% of people to bring them along to become major donors. But I think this is an interesting exercise for you to do. I know I visited a client once in Washington, D.C., and they actually ran this figure every single week. And they would put a little sign up on every development officer's door that said, this week, 93% of our gifts came from 7% of our donors, or whatever the figure happened to be. And I thought that's a good reminder to think about your major donors and how important they are. But the other thing that I think is really important, besides spending your effort on the things that are really going to make sense, like we're going to talk in a few minutes about special events, which is not usually the most productive way of doing fundraising. But a lot of offices spend so much of their time on things that aren't really where the sources of funding are coming from. And for example, we have this chart from Giving USA. I know we have some Canadians and some people outside the United States, but I think the figures are pretty similar, although I did some work in Bermuda and their money from businesses was much higher than this, but much higher than the 5%. But one of the things that I love Giving USA. I think they have some great information. But one of the things that I've always argued with them about is that they really need to revise this pie chart, because bequests are not a source of information, of donations. Bequests are a way to give. So those bequests should really go into that 72% of individuals, which brings it up to 80% coincidentally. So the 80-20 rule there is 80% of your money is going to come from individuals, and 20% is probably going to come from businesses and foundations. I also kind of argue with the fact that they call it corporations, because there's an awful lot of businesses that are not incorporated that are also giving. And I know, sometimes we think of the big corporations. I have a course on raising more money from your business community where I talk about the Willie Sutton theory. I'm not going to have time to go into that now. But I think a lot of times we think of the big corporations as where all the money is. But there are a lot of small businesses and medium-sized businesses also that we need to be concerned about. It's not just corporations.
Yeah, I got a question on that now, and I'd love to have somebody from Giving USA talk with us about that. When they say corporations, that we look at that cause-related marketing, and those are the people that are sponsoring special events. Is that only what do they call them right now? Nonprofit campaigns is an LLC. Are we a corporation to them?
Well, technically, I guess. Well, you're a limited liability corporation, so I guess you would be. But a partnership or a sole proprietorship would not be a corporation. So I'm never sure where they actually lump those, or whether they're just lumping them in with corporations, even though they're technically not a corporation. And of course, outside the U.S., I'm not really familiar with all forms. They may go by different names, but countries have corporations, and then they have some form of, maybe they don't have a sole proprietorship or a partnership. In England, I think it's a what is it? I can't think of the.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about there.
I can't think of the acronym all of a sudden. Limited
LTD, I think it is, or something.
And then there are limited liability corporations. I mean, there's so many, and some states are even different. I know not all states have subchapter S corporations, and some do. So I don't know exactly how they count this, but I would love to get somebody from Giving USA to explain more how they. And I think it's also the way we report it. I know when I did research for my business, the book I wrote on Raise More Money from Your Business Community, I asked people how they counted matching gifts, for example, that came from businesses. And some people were counting them against the individual that brought in that matching gift, but the gift was really from a company. And some people, when they got a gift from a corporate foundation, it went under foundation gifts. So I think a lot of it is how we're reporting it and how it's being tracked. So there's some challenges that I think we face, but no matter how you look at this pie, individuals do give most of the money. But another thing that affects that is that when you look at who gets the money, the majority of money in the United States goes to religion. And money to religion almost always comes from individuals, because most businesses and foundations won't sponsor religion. So if you take that piece out of it, I've done some slicing and dicing of these figures in some of my books to come up with what I think is more realistic. But I don't want to spend too much time on this because it.
Well, yeah, we got 90 minutes every Wednesday to go into this stuff, right? So I want to make a couple of comments on here. And back to that 80-20 rule that you said, most of the nonprofits out there, and I want you to chime in here and tell us if you're one of those or you're the exception to this rule. Kimberly, you've been in my group so long, I know you're the exception to the rule there in Barbados, but it seems so many of these guys are focusing 80% of the time on writing grants, going after the foundations, and going after the corporate gifts. So like that's the only thing that you can do in fundraise, that and special events, right? So there's so many nonprofits that are put, if you're putting 80% of your effort into where 20% of the funding should come from, and that theoretically means now you're putting 20% of your effort into individuals and where those bequests and major gifts and are coming from. And we're here to switch that around for you guys. The other thing is in 2020, during the pandemic, and when we advertised this, Linda, we said, learn some of the secrets that the nonprofits that thrived during 2020. And I can tell you that foundation giving did go up a little bit. And I don't know, so it's probably, 15.5, 16%, 17, maybe even of the total giving. Individual giving went up in 2020 during the pandemic. The corporate giving went down. And so the secret to answer that question, the organizations that thrived, that grew, that did well during the pandemic were focusing on individuals, but not necessarily overly focusing on special events, right? Because all the special events went away.
Were canceled.
So if you were over reliant on special event funding, you hurt. You took it in the shorts during the pandemic. If you were over reliant on corporate giving, now that corporate giving went down. Why? Corporations weren't making the money. I think small businesses gave, and a lot of those small businesses, I think, are counted in that individual piece of the red pie there. However, big corporation giving went down during the pandemic. If you were over reliant on corporate funding and corporate gifts, you got hit hard. If you were focusing on individuals and bequests, and you thrived well. And thankfully those foundations, those charitable foundations stepped up and really did help out during the pandemic. And I think one of the reasons they did so is because the stock market did well, and they have they got a little extra money to give, and God bless them. But unfortunately, when things get bad sometimes and the stock market goes down, those foundation giving numbers are going to go down.
The other thing that I think is critical about this information on this pie chart is how many organizations aren't even tracking how much of their money comes from what sources. And some organizations, all they look at is how much do we bring in all together, and they're not really even focused on where their money is coming from. So that's why that organization in Washington that I mentioned really impressed me, because they actually kept track of that on an ongoing basis, how much their money was coming from what sources. So I think that's a lesson to be learned here, is track your money and find out where it is coming from so you can correct it in a time of a pandemic or some other crisis.
Sue Smith made a comment and says, what was the book she just mentioned? I think it was Raising More Money from Your Business Community, right?
Right. And I just republished the second edition of it. So it's available on Amazon, and it's called Raise More Money from Your Business Community. And I also have a course with that same name that has tons and tons of handouts with it, that I actually took out of some of my book when I republished it, because I thought having a handout in a book doesn't really help you, because, you know, you're not going to be able to take it and use it on your own. So I put a lot of those handouts into the course now, which I think will make it easier. But I'm convinced that we could be raising a lot more money than that miserable 5% if we went about it right. Yeah. And I've been raising money from the business community since my first job, and even before I was in the development as a volunteer. And I worked for an organization that started out with 4 board members going out and seeing a couple of their friends and raising in the business world and raising $6,000. And by the time I left that organization, we had about 200 volunteers, and we were raising $500,000 a year from the business community. And most of it came from small to medium-sized businesses. Yes, we had some big corporations in there, but it wasn't a community that had a whole lot of big corporations in it. So it can be done.
I think that's the same thing with individuals, right? We think everybody wants to go after Oprah Winfrey,
right?
And, Jeff Bezos or whatever his name is. And, but it's just like the average Joe, like you and me, that are funding the majority of the money given by individuals.
Absolutely.
And it's, and so, yeah, I mean, it's really easy to put a plan together to go out and get those folks. And we're going to tell you that plan.
Yeah.
Sue, thank you for asking this question. I'm going to send an email out to everybody in this room. We're going to give you a link to all of Linda's courses on our website. And by the way, we have a special offer. Yes, they're on sale this month. And so we're going to give you all, as I said, the link to them and the link to Linda's books. So, Sue, thank you for asking. Everybody's going to get that information when we're done.
Now I want to spend a little time talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is the 12-step cure to special event addiction, which coincidentally, I also have a course. I don't have a book on this topic, but I do have a course on this where I go through in detail the 12 steps, because what I find is that one of the reasons that so many people are doing nothing but special events is they don't really know what else to do. And this, I think, a lot of times comes from the board members who their only exposure to fundraising has been attending events. So they think about special events as kind of the be all and end all of fundraising, because they're relatively easy to do. Almost anybody can pull off a special event. And it's not quite as scary to board members as, oh my goodness, me going out and asking somebody for money. I couldn't do that, but I can help with a special event and maybe get some of my friends to buy tickets, that type of thing. So the 12-step cures that I've come up with, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail on all this, because we just are going to run out of time. If we do, we still have 45 minutes left. But the first thing I think that's really important is evaluating your special events. And so many organizations that I talk to, when I ask them how much money they raised on an event, oh, we brought in $400,000. Okay, well, what were your expenses? Well, we're not quite sure. And if they do track hard expenses like food, invitations, entertainment, that type of thing, maybe they actually made $200,000, not $400,000, but you always hear what the gross amount was. And some organizations don't even track the hard copy, the hard cost, but that's not the end of the story. You have to track the soft costs. What did it cost you in staff time and in volunteer time? And just as an example of this, I worked at one point in time in my life for a museum. And I was brand new, that they had never really done fundraising until I got there. So they decided to do a special event. And it wasn't that it was a disaster. We had great attendance and people loved it. And we made, this is going back 30 years or more. So we made $37,000, which wasn't too bad. And everybody was so excited. Oh my goodness, we made 37,000. Isn't that great? But what they didn't realize is that I had a part-time staff person who probably spent 6 months of her time doing this special event. And we had a great team of volunteers. We had a volunteer committee of probably about maybe 25 people. But I had a part-time person that was managing these volunteers and doing the things that staff members had to do for about 6 months. At 20 hours a week times 6 months of her salary was not ever taken into account for this. And there were opportunity costs. I could have used her time. I was doing a business appeal. We were getting ready for a capital campaign. And I had other things that I could have used her services for, but she was so busy focused on this event, and they never really analyzed that. So part of my course in the 12-step cure, and it also is available in some of my other courses. I have another course on just evaluating your whole development program that's in the process of being updated and will be live probably next week. But you've got to evaluate this stuff and look at the real costs that are involved. And then after you evaluate your special events, you might come to a drastic realization that, oh my goodness, we're not even making money on these events. Why are we doing them? Well, you're probably doing them because somebody on the board or the staff says, oh, but we've always done this. And oh, our board members love it. And yeah, do they really?
I can't agree with you more. Yeah. I've always said special events are fundraisers, not fundraisers. Mm-hmm. So note this, if you're listening right now, make that note, write it down. Your special event is a fundraiser. It's what you do with your friends after you meet them. That's important.
And I think
develop relationships with them. Yeah,
fundraising events are great, but the problem is some people, like for instance, the committee that ran that event, they were focused on fundraising, where the board thought this was going to be a big fundraiser, so you've got to get everybody on the same page.
And I think when you look at the staff cost of your special event, it was probably about a break even.
Probably. And I thought to myself, I could have taken one major donor out for lunch and gotten $37,000 in an hour and a half, but I was too busy worrying about this event. So I think, evaluate your events, but evaluate your entire program and find out how much are all your fundraising activities cost you. I mean, we know that direct mail acquisition is going to be expensive. You spend more than you make the first time you do it, but there's a plan for the future. And then I think you have to review those results with everybody, including your board and your development committee, so they understand what's really cost effective and what isn't. And yes, some things that you do, like your fundraising events, you're going to do them because they're cultivation events and they're important to do, or recognition events. But why waste 80% of your time doing stuff that isn't really benefiting you? And then maybe choose 1 or 2 at the most events, I think, are all most organizations should be doing. I once had a client that I always joked with because he was a one-person development shop. He was the only development officer in this organization. And they were running 14 special events a year. And I joked with him because he was a former Marine. And I said, who else would have the stamina to do 14 events a year? But he had no time to cultivate major donors or do anything like that. So I think, having 1 or 2 events a year makes a lot of sense, especially if it's something that really relates to your mission. That's what I think is important. If you can tie people in to the organization's mission, and that's in that evaluation form I have, it asks you questions like, did this event give us an opportunity to cultivate major donors. Because frankly, and I used to play, my husband and I both played golf, and I loved it. I was not good at it. I was terrible, but I loved playing. But golf tournaments and walks and runs and any kind of events like that, most of the time people are there because they like to play golf, or they like to run, or they like to walk or bowl or play tennis, whatever it is. They're not there because they care about your organization or even know about your organization. I've always said if I had the time, I would love to organize maybe a group of college interns or something to do an exit interview at all golf tournaments and walks and runs. And when people are leaving the event, say, oh, what organization did you just golf for? And I'd be willing to bet that a great percentage of people would say, oh, I don't know. My boss just said you can have the day off because I sponsored a foursome in this golf tournament, or I just like to run and my friend was telling me about this event. Not sure who I'm supporting, what the organization is all about. And if you're having events like that, you might as well just cross them off right now, because they aren't doing anything to promote your mission and build relationships with your donors.
You know, I want to comment on that, because we did a golf tournament at the YMCA that I was involved with for many years. And we filled up all the foursomes, and they were all playing. But after the event, right, we have a dinner. That's where we have the live auction. Mm-hmm. And most of the people that played golf that day, when they got done with their 18 holes, they went home. And if you went and you looked in who was bidding on the things in that live auction, who was attending and having dinner and having fun with you, those are your supporters. Those were your board members. It wasn't a lot of those golfers.
Right. Exactly. I think that happens so many times. Now, there are always exceptions. I had one client that served people with developmental disabilities, and they really tied people in. They had a golf tournament, but they asked people to sponsor a foursome, but only to send 3 people to that foursome. And the 4th person was one of their clients that had developmental disabilities, and they golfed along with 3 other people. Now that tied people to their mission. That was very unusual. It was and it was interesting because it was run by a nun from Scotland who had this wonderful Scottish brogue, and she drove the golf cart around delivering beer to everybody.
I have never had a nun give me beer.
But a very smart fundraiser, because she tied people into the mission of the organization. It wasn't, and the people with the developmental disabilities were selling tickets and doing things like that. They were involved in the organization.
And the golfers were teaching teaching the people in the program how to play golf and how they were interacting and having fun together and learning.
It was a really neat event. So there are exceptions to this rule. Maybe you have some ideas on how you can really get involved. But then number 5 on this list is create a development plan. And this is what you're going to learn in our master class. You've got to have a plan, not just pick up things as they come along. And when you don't have a plan, one of the things that happens and contributes to this special event addiction is a board member walks into a board meeting, or maybe it's even a development committee member, and says, oh, we ought to do a golf tournament because the Boy Scouts just had one and they raised $500,000. Boy, we ought to do that. But what they don't realize is maybe the Boy Scouts has been running that golf tournament for the last 50 years. And maybe all the board members are supportive of a golf tournament. If your board doesn't have a clue about golf, has nobody that they can even invite to get involved in it. I once talked to a brand new organization. It was just starting out, and to go away from the golf tournament. I hate to pick on golf tournaments, but this organization, I met with them and they said, well, they had this idea that they were going to run a special event at the Four Seasons. Well, of course, an event at the Four Seasons is not a cheap thing to put on.
No, it's not.
And I said to them, oh, well, that sounds like an interesting idea. How many tables do you think your board members can sell? And they said, oh, well, our board members don't have that kind of money. They can't sell any tables. And I said, well, where do you think you're going to get people from to attend this event? Well, so-and-so organization gets hundreds of people. Well, yeah, they've been around for 30 years. They're not a brand new startup organization. So sometimes board members and even staff members get caught up in an idea just because somebody else is doing it. And if you have that written development plan, you can look at it, pull it out and say, well, gee, we don't have that in our plan for this year. So maybe we should investigate it and look at it. Maybe it's something we could do next year. And if they still insist, no, we got to do it right now, then you say, okay, here's the written plan that we all agreed to. So what do you want me to eliminate so I can do this? Because you can't do everything with a limited amount of time and resources that you have. And then number 6 on this list, I think, is developing, if you don't already have, a development committee that can really help you focus your energies on the things that make the most sense. And a strong development committee, oftentimes I have found, can lead the board and educate the board in what really makes sense. I know I had a client once that had a board of 8 people. None of them had a clue about fundraising, nor did they care about fundraising. They didn't even know the organization needed to do fundraising. It was that bad. And I said to them, well, you know, if I were you, I'd probably fire the whole board and start all over again. But that's probably not a politically smart thing to do, that because the board members were all connected to their organization in one way or another. So I said, let's start a strong development committee instead. And we got 2 board members who said, well, we don't know anything about fundraising, but we're willing to learn.
That's all you need.
And we got those 2 and we sat down and brainstormed, and we built a development committee of about 15 people, 2 board members, about 13 people from the community. And within a year, that organization had a board giving program. They did plan one special event. They were getting ready for a capital campaign. They started a planned giving program. It was absolutely incredible. And the next year, when they were ready to get nominations for their board, they said, man, we have a couple people in that development committee that are fantastic. Let's put them on our board. And within a couple of years, they had a board of 21 really powerhouse people, but it all came from the development committee.
You know, that is such good stuff there. And if you can go back to that one slide for a second, I just wanted to make a comment. And then before you continue, we've got some stuff in the chat we want to talk about. But development plans. I have been consulting now for over 25 years. And so many times we sit down and I spend my, work with these people and the volunteers, and we work really hard to create a development plan that they said, thank you. And they put on the shelf and it collected dust, and nobody really, I learned my lesson the hard way with that. It needs to be, you need to talk about that. You need to engage your volunteers, right? We need to get people engaged in this process, and it doesn't need to be this really complicated, long development plan that's all wordy, right? It could be a simple document, and it's just kind of a guiding principle that we live by.
Right. And to me, a development plan is only going to work if you actually ask 3 questions when you're finished with it. You have your goals, you have your objectives, you have your strategies, and some people just stop right there. But you've got to ask 3 questions. Who's going to do this? When is it going to get done? How much is it going to raise? Or how much is it going to cost? Because if you don't answer those questions, you've got to assign responsibilities and hold people to that. Somebody has to monitor that plan on a regular basis, either the chief development officer or the chair of the development committee, and say, okay, board, this is what you were supposed to be doing. How are we doing with that? And is it on time? Is it in budget? And yeah, things are going to go. It's not written in stone, but it shouldn't be written in disappearing ink either. And that's what happens. Like you said, they put it on a shelf somewhere, or nowadays it's put in your computer file. It's not on a shelf probably because maybe nobody ever even printed it out. But I like to have a printout. And when I assign responsibilities and budgets and timelines, I run a list from that plan that says, okay, development committee, here's what you're responsible for. Executive director, here's what you're responsible for. Board, here's what you're responsible for. And if you have a big development staff, you have responsibilities for everybody on the staff. And then when is it going to get done? And have a chronological list that says, okay, here's all the stuff that was supposed to be done in June. Is it done? If not, why not? And the budget, of course, is also important. And sometimes you're going to be under budget. Sometimes you're going to be over budget. But as long as you know in advance and you're monitoring it while you're doing it, not waiting till the end of the year and saying, whoops, we spent too much money, or whoops, we didn't raise as much as we thought. You've got to monitor stuff. I'm a big believer in metrics and monitoring.
Yeah, budgets are important, and keeping track of that, as well as your development plan and where you're at according to that plan. We have about a half an hour left. And so I'm sorry to interrupt. I'll let you get through there. And we got a lot of slides we're going to get through today. Nicole just sent us a message. She said she had to had a last minute meeting, had to leave. Guess what, Nicole? We're going to do a special thing for you. We're going to send you a replay of this webinar along with Linda's books, her courses online, and a link to register for this 6-week masterclass where we're going to teach you everything you need to know about annual giving and a few more things, and of course, how to make that annual plan. We also had a question from Leanne that says, what is Giving Tuesday considered to be, a fundraiser or a friend-raiser? And I'm going to let you talk about that in a second. I'm going to jump in, and I think Giving Tuesday is more about awareness than it is about money being raised. I mean, it is an opportunity for everybody in America and everybody in the world to go, I should be giving, and realizing that that's an important thing, right? I was raised to tithe 10% and save 10%, and tithing could be to your church, it could be your organization, it could be a lot of things, but so it kind of, I believe Giving Tuesday reinforces that. And it brings awareness to organizations and the fact that we as a society need to support those organizations. And yeah, it weighs us a few bucks. Your thoughts, Linda?
I think most people would answer that question as they think it's a fundraiser. But I tend to agree with you, Rob. I think it's more, to me, Giving Tuesday is like a special event.
Yep.
It's something that people give there, and then they say, oh, I already made my donation to that organization. And maybe they made a token gift when they could be making a lot more. So I think it's good, as you said, to raise awareness, but you need to follow up with those people and do research and find out if they're capable of making much more substantial gifts. And most major donors, they want to be approached personally. They don't want to be a part of a special event or a Giving Tuesday or an ask event, which I think are horrible. I hate ask events.
Oh, that's where we invite 100 people to sit down in a room and we ask them all at the same time.
It's that's an absolute no. But let me quickly get through this last slide, and then I'll turn it back to you, Rob.
Okay, sorry.
Number 7, I think, is board development and education, because board members need to understand the true cost of special event. So I think if you educate your board a little bit and do, maybe some 10-minute trainings at a board meeting about different aspects of fundraising. And then number 8 is developing the infrastructure. A lot of organizations are doing special events because they don't require any infrastructure. They should have in place, but they often don't have the right software, the gift acceptance policies, the procedures and things like that. And so they think events are something anybody can run, but to run them right, you really do need to have some infrastructure in place. Mm-hmm. And then I think it's important to develop, first of all, if you don't have a case for support, develop one, but figure out a way at your special event to tell your case for support. that golf tournament I mentioned, that was telling their case for support with human beings showing what this organization was doing for these people. But you've got to figure out a way to tell your case for support and tell your story at a special event. It could be at, like you mentioned, Rob, people coming to a golf tournament. You're not going to tell your story on the golf course, but if they all come back to a dinner or lunch or something afterwards, then maybe you can tell your story there. Gala dinner dances, I've seen, I've had some clients that actually they work with people in a free health clinic, and you would think that people who are getting free health services wouldn't be thrilled about getting up and telling the whole world this, but they would have testimonials from people, and it put a whole different slant on them, because I remember one testimonial was from a nurse, but she lost her job and had no health care. So she needed to go to a free clinic for a while. And that was really powerful because it sent a message. This could happen to any of us. I mean, if you're not old to be in Medicare like I am, anybody can lose their health insurance, at almost any time. So that's kind of, I think, a way to tell your story. And then, number 10 is implement an annual giving program, which we're probably going to talk more about in our course on doing an annual campaign focused on individuals and businesses. And do some research and cultivation. The people who do attend your event, make sure your board members are out there talking to them. That event that I mentioned at the museum that I said really wasn't that financially successful, in my opinion, but it was successful because one of the board members came to me at the event and said, I was just talking to a couple who were sitting at my table, and they are extremely interested in the museum. They have no children, and they're very wealthy. And we got a successful major gift from them, a name giving opportunity, actually. So you, as a fundraiser and a research tool, it was very successful, and a cultivation tool. And then start that major gifts and plan giving so you get on this event. So I'm going to probably turn it back to you, I guess, Rob.
Well, and I tell you, we got a question from Stephanie. It's a really good question. I want you to help you answer it. I'll go back to Leanne, make sure we answered her question well. Is Giving Tuesday considered to be a fundraiser or a friendraiser? I think we answered that. It's a friendraiser, special event, awareness event. And as we said before, the most important thing is, what do you do with your friends after you meet them? Do you just send them mail, or do you go out and hang out with them and develop a relationship with them? Stephanie asked a great question. Would sharing with a small group of board members or donors' friends, like a lunch or a tea, be considered an ask event?
Oh,
I'm going to jump in when you're done. Jump in on that.
I think it should be a cultivation event if you don't know these people. And you probably don't want to call it a cultivation event to them, but you can say, we'd just like to get together with you and talk about a little bit about our organization, but mainly to learn more about you. What are your philanthropic interests? What do you want to see? What change do you want to affect in this world? And that's what people really appreciate, the fact that you're listening to them. I just was on a Zoom meeting this morning where we talked a lot about listening, and my theory is always that there's a really good reason that we were born with 2 ears and 1 mouth. It means we're supposed to be listening twice as much as we talk. So I think that's really important. And I would use those small group sessions, first of all, to get to know these donors, and then find out what excites them. And if you're doing something that excites them, you're going to get them as a donor eventually, but it takes some cultivation first. Rob, what do you say?
You know what? I agree with you 100%. And Stephanie, thank you for asking this question, because these events are important, right? We get a donor or a board member to ask their friends to come out, and but my gosh, if you just meet somebody and it's your friend and you just met them on the first day, do you ask them to loan you $20? So yeah, don't ask them for money when you first meet with them. Develop the relationship. Tell them how great you are. I mean, the fact that you've got a board member that's passionate, or a donor passionate about your organization, he wants to invite their friends. We don't want to. Don't pester them for money right there. It's what you do after to develop that relationship with your friends. We've got to be good friends. We don't want to be that pain in the ass friend that asks for money all the time. Thank you for that, Stephanie. Leanne jumped in here again. It says, is Giving Tuesday a fundraiser with low cost? And a foundation gives a matching gift. Well, I love matching gifts. Matching gifts are fun. They excite people. And yeah, I think, I mean, quite frankly, Leanne, I think we might be putting a little too much emphasis on Giving Tuesday as something that's, I mean, the other day was National Nonprofit Day. It was August 17th. Do you know it was National Nonprofit Day? We really could have had an opportunity to do something with it. Most people didn't know it was National Nonprofit Day. Probably a lot of people don't understand Giving Tuesday unless you happen to be a nonprofit professional. So yeah, it's having a matching gift is great. Having people, if that motivates people to give for the first time and become your friend, that's great. Leanne, the question is now, how do we develop that friendship? Anything else you want to add to that one?
No, I think we've covered that.
Beat the dead horse there.
I think so.
Okay, so we've got about 20 minutes left. This is a really important slide that I like to talk about, and it's the old-fashioned pyramid of giving. And the idea behind it is, and I've been using this for 40 years, and the idea behind it is we bring people into the organization at that red annual giving at the bottom. And it may be maybe it's an online gift. Maybe it's they gave on Facebook or social media or something along that line. Direct mail campaigns. Direct mail is not dead, I believe it or not. And I think folks with a little more gray hair like those direct mail appeals more so. But definitely there's a right way and a wrong way to do a direct mail campaign. Benefits and special events. I think we beat that horse to death. Great fundraiser. Yeah, I'll raise a few bucks, but don't focus on the bucks. Focus on the bringing new people into your pyramid. And then, of course, for annual giving, I think the cream of the crop is what we call a high impact fundraising campaign or a high impact annual campaign that I mentioned before, where we organize our volunteers and our board members to go out and ask their friends to share their story, tell them why they support the organization, and ask others to give at that same level of giving. That's the cream of the crop. If you send out a direct mail program and you're a big direct mail person, and somebody sends you a gift that you don't know of $100, my gosh, that $100 gift should be $1,000 gift if you develop a relationship with that person and meet with them. And that's how that is really what my specialty is, and Linda's specialty is developing those individuals, and those businesses are, at the end of the day, are run by individuals. And then, of course, we want to develop them through this pyramid of giving. And I'm going to come back to the high impact annual campaign because it's so important. That is the majority of what I do in consulting. Most nonprofits don't even realize there's such a thing as doing a high impact community support campaign. They think all you can do is special events and direct mail and the social media and all that other stuff. And then, of course, we want to take those people and take those passive levels of giving and get them into the orange, right? This is where your major gifts come from. All major givers probably didn't start off making a $100,000 or a $50,000 or whatever you consider a major gift. They probably started off writing a check from a direct mail appeal or somebody. Most important reason that people give to an organization is someone they know and respect asked them. by far and large, that's the most important reason that people give to organizations. So now we need to develop them into our special major gifts, capital campaigns, and special campaigns. And I know so many organizations say, oh, no, we don't want to run a capital campaign. If you look at the most successful nonprofit organizations in the United States, they are either planning for or in the middle of or wrapping up some kind of a special capital campaign or a special giving campaign of some kind that goes above and beyond people's annual gift. It is like it's like going to the gym and working out your muscles. Your fundraising muscles need a little extra, workout from time to time, and push that a little bit extra. And those capital and special campaigns are so important to your organization. And of course, one of the things we teach is how to prepare your organization to be ready for those kinds of campaigns. And then, of course, lastly, at the end of the day, it's estate plan gifts. We're all going to die. Right now, planned giving is the fastest growing segment of gifts from individuals, bar none. That great generation is it's just done so many wonderful things. They've created wealth, and they want to give and leave a legacy to an organization that they care about, and they're going to give it to somebody. They're going to give it to their kid. They're going to give it to another organization that has done the work that we're trying to teach you to do. So stick with us, and that is such an important part of that process. We're going to come back and more. We're going to do a lot of work on this pyramid of giving in this 6-week masterclass. Leanne, I hope I answered your question well, by the way, about Giving Tuesday. She came in and said she didn't mean to do that question twice. That's fine. We're cool with that. Oh my gosh, here's a big old slide, and it's called The Role of Your Board of Directors. I'm going to send these slides out to everybody afterwards, and I don't know why I threw this one in. I could have put this down to 3 or 4 bullets. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to let you jump in for a couple of minutes and talk about this. Your board of directors is legally responsible, fiscally and ethically and legally responsible for your organization. If your organization makes a mistake, they're responsible. If the executive director or the founder is doing something unethical, they are responsible. I get so many founders that say, my gosh, you mean I only want to have a couple of board members because they could fire me. Well, if you're not cutting the mustard, they should fire you. They have that responsibility to fire you. That is the reason our laws are created to the way they are. These board members are required by law to catch fraud, to catch bad people doing bad things with nonprofits out there and firing them and fixing the organization. It just so happens that if they're trained well, they can be involved in your organization and help raise money for your organization, help raise awareness for your organization. And so I'm not even touching anything on this slide. I'm talking about a lot of other things. I believe in big boards. Linda, I know you believe in big boards, right?
Right.
Go ahead.
The only thing I would say about this slide, because I know we're down to like 10 more minutes, but for those of you who are founders, I know that when you fill out your IRS 501c3 application, it's going to ask you for 3 board members. The IRS doesn't know what it really takes to run an organization, and you can't just stop with 3 board members. And for most founders, it ends up being their spouse or their sister or their daughter or their mother, yep, or a good friend. That is not going to last. You need that. It'll get you their 501c3, but don't ever think in terms of muddling along with a board of 3 members. There's no magic bullet number, but I would say 15 is the very smallest you should think about. And I think 25 is probably a more likely organization. And I was just talking about this with a group, and I said, people don't want a big board either because they think they're going to fire you as a founder, or, oh, it's too hard to get a quorum. Well, is it any more difficult to get 13 people out of 25 than it is to get 3 people out of 5? You have the dilemma is there no matter what size your board is. If they're not coming to meetings, then fire them and get some board members who are coming to meetings.
Thank you for making that comment. I agree 100% that those 3 board members, when you file your paperwork with the IRS, that's just stuff on a piece of paper. That's not a board.
Right.
And once you get that piece of paper done, start focusing on developing your board of directors.
Absolutely.
We're going to teach you how to do this in this masterclass. I don't think we're going to get to it all in the next 10 minutes.
No.
And, but my God, for $250, $249, you are going to get me and Linda. We're going to have other guest experts talking. I got a guest expert coming in about grant writing. Because so many people have questions about grant writing and so many other things that are just so important. But the most important is having that good board of directors. The average is, I think it's about 15 and 16. And I think that should be the minimum, as Linda said. And if you'll notice, the most successful organizations have the most board members. Well, do we want to be successful? Let's follow their footsteps. Any more questions that you guys have out there? We want to help. My gosh. Was that good timing or what? We are here to help. So if you have questions, go ahead, shoot them at us. This is the slide for the 6-week masterclass that we were talking about. We're going to keep it to a maximum of 50 participants. And if we get more people, we'll just start a second masterclass. And it is where I don't know where you are going to get, not quite one-on-one, but at least semi-private consulting with an advanced certified fundraising executive, and of course you get stuck with me, who's been doing this for 40 years, and our expertise. We've been the Lone Ranger with going out there with our 6-shooter on with an awful lot of nonprofits, and now we've been very successful. We love what we do. We've been very blessed with our careers. This gives us an opportunity to at a cost-effective $250. If you work for an organization, they should be paying that $250. If you are a founder, that's a write-off. And as your organization gets a few bucks going, you can pay yourself back some of these expenses. It is so important. This is 90 minutes times 6. Plus, we're going to have, for 6 weeks, 90 minutes a week. Plus, we're going to have some Saturday bonus sessions that we'll tell you about later. Veronica says, new to fundraising and thinking ahead to year end, what is a good organized, actionable way to get our board members involved in fundraising? You got to attend this course. Veronica, this course is designed for you. Okay, we're coming to year end. I'm going to talk about that real quick. We may go over, by the way, Linda, and if you guys stick with us, and I'm willing to go a little bit over. It says 37 minutes from now that we're going to lose this, so I'm not going to go that long. Kai Weiser jumped in and says, does the class meet once a week? Yep, once a week on Wednesday. And it's Wednesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, and that would be 7 p.m. East Coast time. So we're doing it a little before the workday ends for those folks on the Pacific, and we're doing it a little late for you East Coast folks. Now let's go back to Veronica's question. It's really important. And she's talking about that year-end gift and what can we do to get the board active in a year-end way. And I'm going to tell you that it's not what your board does at year-end that's important. It's how they start off the year. If Linda and I believe that, we talk about these high impact fundraising campaigns, this community support campaign that goes after individuals and businesses. Most of the asking is done by volunteers. And I believe it's important that volunteers develop those relationships with your donors. Obviously, the staff wants to have a relationship with those people too. But we just talked about the average length of time for a development director of being 15, 16, 18 months, something like that. Why do you want that person to be the only link to your donors? If your board members, your volunteers, they're going to be around for a long time. And having them develop those relationships is so important. And so it's the most important thing, Veronica, we can tell you is to get those board members. And we're going to teach you in this class how to organize them into a community support campaign, where you're going to go out at the beginning of the year and you're going to ask everybody, God and everybody in your universe, to make a pledge to the organization that could be paid off over the year. I may not be able to afford $1,000 gift, but I can afford $100 a month, which would be, if we ran the campaign in February, we got 10 months to collect that gift. To me, the most important thing for year-end giving is probably a really good crisp direct mail holiday appeal. But if you don't want to do that at the beginning of the year, if we're sending out these passive forms of giving, direct mail and stuff, all of us, and okay, well, they get that thing in the mail, they write a check for $50 or $100 or whatever it is. Psychologically, they have given for that year. So why don't we plan at the beginning of the year our high impact community support campaign, where we go out and ask them to make a pledge. We're doing it face to face. We're doing it with people that they respect and know, because as we said earlier, what's the number one reason people give? Somebody asked them.
If I can answer, Veronica, I think if you're looking for something to do before the end of the year, I would suggest two things. One is do a board training for your board, to let somebody come in and talk to them about how important their role in fundraising is and what's really effective in fundraising. And the other thing is, if you haven't yet done a board appeal, make sure that's done by end of the year, so that when you're ready to start this high impact campaign at the beginning of the next year, the board members are going to be able to go out there and say, hey, I'm a board member and I supported this organization before I came to you, because board members can't ask somebody else for money if they're not giving themselves. Yep. So I would say board education and a board appeal would be, and we'll be talking about all those in the course too.
Yeah, and I'm going to add to that. A lot of these boards, Veronica, come up with a minimum giving standard, and they say, well, everybody on the board needs to give $1,000 or $500 or $100, and minimums become maximums. Kai Weiser is so sick of hearing me say that, but it is true. And what might be $50 might be a meaningful gift to one board member. $5,000 might be a meaningful gift to another board member. By the way, when you write grants, they're going to ask, is 100% of your board giving to the organization? Why would a foundation give to an organization that their own board members wouldn't give to?
Why would an individual? I know I don't give to an organization unless their board members are all giving.
When I get appeals, I might be a little bit of a nerd weirdo on this. I get appeals and I just go and look on the website to see who the board members are. And
me too.
I want to know that they're involved and they're giving in there. There it is. Fundraising University at Nonprofit Campaigns. If you go to our website, nonprofitcampaigns.com, the acronym has been shortened by our website people to FUNC. So go to the FUNC link, FUNC, and
we're going to be funky as all heck.
Yeah, I don't know how that worked in. And then, of course, when you're registered for that, we're going to hit that finish line at the end of the year, like Veronica wants. We've really done a great job, and now that end of the year appeal it makes sense, right? Because that's just that last little bit of to push you over the edge. That shouldn't be where your fundraising starts. That should be where it ends. Oh my gosh, we came up with a special offer, as I said earlier in the class. For those, we offer a 2-hour videos with 50-page guidebook on how to create that community support campaign. We call it Intro to High Impact Campaigns, a guide to prepare for success. And this teaches you everything you need to know in an online training course on how to create that volunteer-led, staff-managed annual support campaign. It qualifies for 1.75 CFRE course credit hours, whatever they are. We're going to give this to you free. It costs $199 on our website. Veronica and Stephanie and Kai and everybody else that's out there. Kimberly, you've already got this course. Kimberly's already paid for the course, but we're going to give you this as a special offer today when you sign up to be a member of our 6-week masterclass. And so it's $249 to be a member of a 6-week masterclass. And we're going to give you as a special bonus today, this $199 course to teach you everything you need to know about how to go out and start that community support campaign. And like I said, now is the time to learn this. We're doing this in fall, not only because it's back to school season, but because fall is when you plan for your annual support campaign that should be done near the beginning of the year, right? We don't want to be doing these annual support campaigns at the end of the year. People have already given, $50 for your direct mail. They think they're done. Catch them at the beginning of the year. Then anything else is, then we involve them in other activities and appeals and things as the year goes by, right? Whew. Okay. So what else is next? Oh my gosh. I almost forgot to talk about FundDuel. We've been going here for an hour and a half. I can't figure out how, whenever I do something with Linda, time flies. Hours. And we just start having fun and talking. I've got FundDuel, by the way. Okay, everybody out there that does special events, and Linda's told you, where and how and why we should be doing special events, right? I think we've beat that horse. What the pandemic has taught us is that we need to have a hybrid special event. We need to have a way to capture the vast majority of your supporters and friends that are not necessarily sitting in that room. So I believe one thing the pandemic has taught us is that we always need to have an online component with every special event that will be run. At the beginning of the pandemic, I tried to learn and find what is that alternative to an in-person special event. I found it. It's FundDuel. It is the premier social media fundraising platform. And if I hit the button here, we're going to give you a 30-second, maybe it's a minute, I don't know. I'm going to give you the small. I got 2 commercials here. I'm going to give you the smallest one, fastest one. Here's a commercial on FundDuel campaign.
Ever need to raise money, but you don't want to do this? Or this? Why can't fundraising be competitive and fun? Introducing FundDuel, a brand new way to raise money.
Competition brings an exponential increase in fun. That's why we invented the FundDuel. That's who all our parties compete to see who can raise the most money.
First, you challenge someone to a duel. Once they've accepted, you both choose a cause to support. You then invite your friends to donate, or post videos of themselves performing a silly challenge. Both sides' donations go to their respective causes, and everybody wins. FundDuel, putting the fun back in fundraising.
Can you hear me now?
No.
All right. That was kind of a trip with the audio, but I think you got it. Linda and I do a lot of shows on StreamYard, and we're doing them. We do in our Facebook group, we do a weekly show on StreamYard. It automatically mutes my mic. And so on that one, we had a little background echo going on, but I think you get the idea. That is our FundDuel campaign that we offer as a that I think is by far better than anything else I've seen when it comes to and making your special events virtual and hybrid special events. Let's see. I'm going to try to go back to the PowerPoint, and let's see. Is it going to start? Yep. No, it looks like it's going to start right where we left off here at FundDuel. Very good. Okay. We also talked about our group. I am so excited to invite all of you here that are in the room. We're gonna send you this link in an email soon. But we have our own community in a Facebook group. It's called Nonprofit Campaigns Community, Inspiring Fundraising Success. When I made this slide, there was 30 members. And just the other day, we had our 500th member join the group. Pretty excited about that one. What's next? Oh, here was the other special offer I told everybody about. Remember, we said all those online training courses that Linda offers on our website, nonprofitcampaigns.com. Right now, you can get 20% off on any and all of Linda's online training courses. And we got a couple more we got to put on the air, don't we? We're going to work together on that because she's got a few courses that aren't there. But I am excited to tell you, between now and October 31st, all of Linda's online training courses, there's about 68 CFRE hours there. They start at $99, but now they're going to be 20% off. Go down, check it out on our website, spend some time, get on nonprofitcampaigns.com. Let's see, I don't remember what slides I had left. We did it. That is the last slide I have. We have raised the money. We have achieved our goal. I'm going to go check my email now to see how many of you guys registered to be a part of our 6-week masterclass. We're going to teach you, as I said, started this out, we're going to teach you everything you needed to know about fundraising, but we're afraid to ask. And we're going to teach you how to get started on the right foot and how all of your fundraising efforts are going to funnel donors in to your community support campaign, and it's going to activate your board members. We want to have fun. Board members don't know what they don't know yet, and we're going to teach them. And we're going to invite them and to get involved in a fun campaign that's easy for them to do. And it is just it's magical when all this stuff works on and all cylinders are firing together. Linda, thank you for being a part of this webinar. I'm going to go back to the chat. If we've got any more questions, Stephanie says, I didn't get the email. I haven't sent it yet, Stephanie. I'm still in the room here. I'm not very good at multitasking. And Drew, yes, we knew there was an echo in there. And that was my error. My apologies for that. You know, I don't do a lot of these webinars anymore. I got to remember to mute my mic when I play my videos. Thank you, Stephanie. I promise, as soon as you get done. I don't know what state you're in, Stephanie. Do you remember? I'm in Hawaii right now. So it's already 1:38 in the afternoon. I got a whole nother day to work. I've been going since 8 a.m. I'm like, put a half day in. It's time to keep going. Any parting questions from any of you guys out there? Veronica, Stephanie. Oh, she's in Georgia. So it is kind of the end of your day in Georgia. What time is it? It's 7:30 in the evening, right? Something like that in Georgia. Thank you, Stephanie from Georgia, and Kai from California, and Kimberly Barker from Barbados. Kimberly, by the way, is in the middle of planning her FundDuel campaign. And if you guys want to learn about FundDuel, we'll get Kimberly on the line. She'll tell you where she's at. She's got a really, really cool campaign. They're I can't tell you. I want to tell you so much who their national chairman is, but I can't tell you. Any parting shots from you, Linda?
Just I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in our master class. I think it's going to be fun. And if we didn't answer any of your questions today, I think I see a couple of questions in there about the size of the board and what to look for on your board members. That will all be covered in the course, because we're going to talk a lot about recruitment process for board. So I think if we missed any questions, we'll be answering them in the course for sure.
Absolutely. And I just found that here. Sorry, Stephanie, I missed this question on what kind of people do you need to look for your board. We can talk another 90 minutes on that. And so thankfully, we get 90 minutes a week to do this. We'll have handouts for you. We'll have bonus sessions. We'll have each week we'll come up with a what do you call that? A workbook that you get to follow up on. I forgot to tell you that we're even going to write a letter that you can give to your boss, because I think your boss needs to be supportive of you attending this. They need to make sure that, okay, you know, this, my employee needs to focus an hour and a half every Wednesday on this. Don't give them some task right at the same time. And your boss needs to pay for this. And we want to break that horrible tenure problem that we have with nonprofit fundraising professionals, where the average length of time is about 16, 18 months. We want to support you guys. We want those new people need to know that us as experienced fundraisers, we're here to support your career advancement. We want you to get your CFRE. We want you to learn. I guarantee you, CFREs and you folks that have been around for a while, pay for your staff to attend this thing. I guarantee you they'll be a better staff person and a better fundraiser. Veronica, by the way, just came in and said thank you. Have to go, but great webinar. Yeah, we've got to go too.
It was great. You had some great questions. We go getting questions. Sometimes you teach a webinar and nobody's asking questions, and you think, am I that good that I answered everything before I anticipated, or does nobody really care? So this was great to see the great questions.
Yeah, and you know, doing webinars with you, Linda, is so fun. Training with Linda is fun. We talk, we laugh, we have a good time. If you're not having fun at your nonprofit organization, you're doing something wrong. We're going to teach you how to put the fun in your fundraising.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Stephanie, and everybody else for being there. I think we're about done. As I said, I'm going to now send that email out to everybody. We're going to follow up with you guys. I want to make sure that those of you that signed up right now, we're going to give you that free course. So I got to mark our president of our company will give me a link to give you our coupon code to give you. So when you go on the website, you can just download that course for free. Any other questions, send us an email, contact us. We look forward to working with you as we develop exciting high-impact fundraising. I screwed that last line up. This is my tagline, Linda. We look forward to working with you as we develop exciting high-impact fundraising campaigns together. Right. Aloha from Maui.
And bye from Boulder City, Nevada.